Hey, Rytis, how are you?
JJ, I'm very good. How are you doing today, my friend?
It's good to be talking after 2 years since we first met in that cafe in Berlin, when I think we were both starting our journeys. I was starting Cosmo and you were starting Palmo. So why don't we start with maybe you introducing what Palmo was, the beginnings and the journey?
Good question. I'm wearing some of our merch, but maybe to kind of start with the end, is that we ended up shutting down the company 3 months ago. The journey had started over 3 years ago. I think I got my final idea for what I wanted to be when I was in Zubo, the e-bikes delivery B2B company, and working with gorillas, the Flink, and the heyday of commerce, and realized that seemed all quite efficient, and every driver is taking a single parcel and delivering it to. I was like, surely there should be like some sort of merge consolidated marketplace. So we set out to build basically an intra-urban EV, LEV, last logistics marketplace. Realized that we didn't have the money. We raised about 600K in the first round. Realized we didn't have the money to. This was 600K to bootstrap some sort of supply side and market. We were competing against these companies, against Uber and so on and so forth. So we realized, okay, we'll have to limit ourselves to software only. The first product we built was what we call the auto. So there we were actually working with e-commerce companies and helping them basically to automate their dispatcher. Back then, they were trying to consolidate orders, but the tools they were using, on-demand tools, couldn't actually do automated consolidation. So they had dispatchers, like dozens of people. I think Gorillas had on a team of 25 people or so that were just doing nothing else but driving up in orders in their tools and consolidate. So I thought, let's build a skin basically on top of that, to touch that, build that. By the time that was working, well, it turns out it's a much more difficult problem than one would think. The whole industry had collapsed. The commerce delivered in 30, 60 minutes. So we need to focus on something else if we want to kind of remove these events from the streets. And then we got pulled into the other side of the spectrum, which is working then more with parcel delivery companies, FedEx, all of that stuff. But we're working with their teams that were doing LEV delivery, right? So cargo bikes, professional quad bikes, all of that stuff, and realized that the systems that these companies were using, which are there, largely in-house developed systems, most cases, ancient, big things, were doing a very, very poor job because they're optimized, of course, for outside of the city warehouses, one large van, not that much limitations going into the city, of course not. So we're trying to help these companies develop multiple products and different pilots with lots of big and smaller companies, ultimately try to enable them to deliver large amounts in an automated way on LEVs. That process dragged on for a year, pilots and talks and MVPs and all of that, and ended towards the end of last year. Finally decided, ultimately we couldn't really integrate into these large companies' systems because they're not integrated, they're not super keen on doing that. One, two, ultimately we got pushed in the direction of then building our own delivery management systems for these for large volumes with automation. And I think I had to look myself into the eye and just realize that I don't want to build this delivery management system. In the past, in 2014, 15, 16, I was working at a Danish company called Drive. We're doing basically a TMS for taxi companies. So I've seen a company go through like 6, 7, 8 years of SaaS for transport companies with all the use fragmentation, the unhappy customers ultimately go bankrupt. So it's like, I don't want to do that again. And we started out saying we don't want to build a DMS, and we still got pulled into building a DMS. And when I can't put myself to 5 years of DMS, I decided that after having looked at 1,000 things, really like the most amazing big notion full of transport opportunities, ideas, and else, decided that it's best to return the money, which was some 2/3 of the rounds. To push on to the team.
We'll go over this whole journey. Let's start by the marketplace idea. As we've been discussing over the last 2 years, I think there's different companies that tried that in Europe. I've seen them in the US. We were doing it in Southeast Asia, starting in Singapore. We tried it for a year and then it didn't work. This marketplace where we integrated to 3PLs to make it easy and optimized to the delivery, but it didn't work, so we pivoted. You also went through it. What's missing there? No one seems to be making this marketplace for logistics or 3PL or last mile work. Why?
Yeah, good question. I only had the answer. I mean, caveat, we didn't get there, right? We started this on a journey to get there, to build the software, and we died. We closed down on the way, but of course, I spent a lot of time thinking about the marketplace piece. I think ultimately, you know, you got to provide, if you're going to squeeze yourself into this value chain and extract some value, you need to get paid, right? For your team and all that. You need to provide extra value. How can you provide extra value in that space? And yes, it can be better service and present people willing to pay for sustainability. But still, this space of gigantic economies of scale and low margins is an efficiency play. So you need to provide more efficiency. What's the angle to provide more efficiency? It's consolidation. And I think most companies, most marketplaces, including yourself, I think we're more like technology enablers, nicer software, but it's just passing down the order to a single, like to a third, and they still deliver it for themselves. They're the one consolidating, which they were before. So you're just a new source. But saying the lever would be to actually be able to consolidate all of that. So you get to the, consolidation, like larger volumes, bigger density, high efficiencies, OTRs, lower cost, the company we're after. But somehow, there's a few companies of the new cohorts where you can see that they actually managed to do consolidation in cities for whatever reason.
Yeah, I think for us the main issue was monetization. Like we couldn't charge money. So if you would give it for free, people would see value because we connect them to all the 3PLs in the market. But if you would want to charge 5 cents, then there's no value anymore because you didn't provide 5 cents of value. So we moved on.
Could you consolidate?
I mean, we didn't try to consolidate. In our case, what we wanted to do was I find you the cheapest option to deliver. And I think that could work if there's a lot of variance in the market. So, but the truth was that there was no such crazy variance as for us to be able to find pockets of 20 cents in saving for every order, right? So the pricing was not as dynamic as we thought. My thesis was the pricing is super dynamic. It depends a lot on day of the week, time of the day, blah, blah. The truth was that was not the case. And the merchants we were trying to work with, they were fine working. And actually they preferred working with one single 3PL they could talk to, and they could hold accountable for delayed orders while we could not, right? Because we were just a technology provider. So that was the reason in our case. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you think it through, as we've kind of done a lot of times, is like, if you want to consolidate, to get to the real efficiency gains in the markets, then you need warehouses. You can't really just pass the order to some rider. You need to control the rider. You need to control the software. You need to know exactly where they're going, exactly where they are. So if you add that you need to control the riders with the technology and the warehouses, you are becoming a delivery company, which is nothing particularly wrong with that. But if you want to build something like that, then you need tons of millions, I guess.
Yeah, you need to do Amazon, the Amazon way.
Or what comes to mind right now is a bit like Relay or something.
Yeah.
And again, there's like a 10 million plus already thing that they've gone through because then you're directly competing with the big guys, but you're a delivery company with the money that you need to actually scale to get to some scale where you can become profitable. That's more like Uber, DoorDash type of play.
Yeah.
Hard to do right now, I would say, in the fundraising environment.
You were talking about the product that you built for Q-commerce, Autopilot, and that you just were skin layer on top of OnFleet or let's say any DMS because those guys, they don't do batching or consolidation, right? Batching, for those who don't know, is if an order comes in, it's very easy to just auto assign it to a driver. But what's hard is just if all the drivers have 20, if there's 100 drivers, 100 orders, and then a new order comes in, to batch it to the right guy, it's a bit more complex, right? Question, first of all, why do you think OnFleet, because you guys were built on top of OnFleet, why do you think they don't do that? They don't go that way.
Good question. Should call Calvin and ask him. My thoughts. One, I'm not up to date on where the product is, but I think after we shut down our autopilot efforts, this is like a year and a half ago, I think they launched some new functionality in that space, and it was working well for one or two clients, but I think they went a bit into that direction, but I don't think they fully solved it. One, two, after having done what we tried to do, I think it's nearly impossible. I haven't seen a solution that can be general, that you can do it as SaaS for a broad audience of topics, because every fleet, if you want like full automation, the degree of customization, the quality and depth of data that you need from the Rytis to make sure that the algorithm does the right decisions, where the drivers are, who are the good drivers, who are the bad drivers. Maybe someone is taking a break, things like that together, all the data, and then to have tailored decision making to exactly the process you have, the team you have, and so on and so forth. I think you can only really do it if you build your own software. So Amazon is the best example. Again, they have much higher automation than many others in the space because they run their own system, they control more than anyone else.
Yeah, I think
as a general solution.
I think this also applies to DMS in general. Like that's why there's no winner takes all DMS solution, in my opinion, because the logistics industry is very fragmented. Every company operates in its own way. Everyone needs a bit of a different way to create routes, different way to communicate to the driver, and it adds up. We're currently exploring actually building this batching solution. Yeah, and we were discussing today with our CTO, and we went deep into it, and we said, hey, that's quite complex to do it right. Is it worth the effort? Are there enough clients out there? Because we're talking now to a client that says they need it, but it's quite some effort to do it properly, right? It's kind of easy to do something basic, but to do it properly is quite some effort. So maybe now that you said that once the Q-commerce died, Palmo stopped. Let's say you guys pivoted from the autopilot. Let's say. It made me realize that it's true that the instant delivery market out there, outside of the big platforms, might not be so big as for this to exist or be needed.
Yeah, absolutely not, right? It really crashed. And the only companies that remained are the ones that are big enough to justify their own
Build it themselves. Right? Exactly.
And just eat and so on and so forth,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
If you there's a big difference between the complexity between on demand, where at any point an order can come in, and what we call cut-off times or time windows, right? Where okay, it's now 14:50, we start taking orders, and now we press a button on the algorithm and creates a tour, and then in 3, everyone starts to get going. Right? Because of the on-demand world, you have to keep rerunning the algorithm. The algorithm almost needs a sense of time to understand, should I wait? Maybe more orders will come in because I don't know, they need to find the right time. So much more complicated in the world where you have cut times and time windows because you know exactly when you need to run the algorithm. So it makes it easier.
Yeah. I think a good way to see it is like for instant or on-demand delivery companies to exist, since by default they need a lot of capital. Those are companies that raise capital, build their own tech teams, they build their own solutions. Actually, that's it's very hard to run an on-demand delivery, let's say, profitable from the start business. So by default, you need to raise a lot of capital. You're big, you build your own solution.
Yeah, and if you're big enough, then the gains that you get from a custom built solution, the 10 million that you spend on building your own solution, might actually come back as like 100 million in efficiency gains versus running something off the shelf, plus spending a ton of money on figure or something like that. So there's just a certain size from which it makes sense to build it. Plus, you have an investor story to tell. And if you don't have software there, then
So you said that you were not the biggest fan of DMS because you think it's crowded, or because you have your own, let's say, stories. Why did you end up getting into the DMS product?
Like the more I've been transport for about 10 years and in startups and all that, and I think it just seems as like the default path. It's like if all other options have been exhausted, everyone just goes back to building the DMS. Because those are the central systems of the obvious thing to do. So I think that's why we ended up going. I mean, for our case, right? Yeah, the vision was the marketplace. The vision was to get to a point where we could run our own consolidation. And the idea was, which is a bit like what Circuit are doing, was like, okay, let's be super, super smart. What we're going to do is we're going to build an amazing piece of technology, and we're going to sell them to fleets. And, the fleets are not going to only be our clients, but they're also going to be basically a bootstrap supply side. Once we have enough of them, we just got to create a demand channel and give them volume. Boom, we have a marketplace without the hassle of spending a ton of money on bootstrapping these, and we already have the amazing technology that we've built. So that was the idea. So having a DMS as part of the product was always part of the solution. It was never a means to an end. And at some point, I realized, okay, it seems extremely unlikely that we'll be able to get to that marketplace / bigger operational company vision. And just selling a DMS as like a SaaS product. Yeah, I mean, that's why I can explain a bit more depth if you want to why I didn't want to do it. But I think it was, for us, it was part of the path to success, except I realized we won't get to the end of the marketplace.
At some point, I remember in the last stages, let's say, of Palmo, we discussed about you exploring ideas as a niche within DMS, like even features within the DMS. Do you see opportunities there? Like going deep into what the DMS companies don't do?
Yeah. It's a good question. I mean, what did we look at, right?
I think you looked at the communications products, but then I think maybe it's not worth to discuss, but you explored and you finally decided that it was not worth to explore, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we were, as every struggling startup trying to find product market fit last year, we had in the right periods, we also built GPT-4 into our DMS. Did you try to put in GPT-4?
I think it's pointless. I think it's pointless.
We had the most amazing week or 2 weeks in summer. Actually, DMS had a chatbot in the right corner, so you could tell it how many parcels are delayed, and it would parse. It was like the most cumbersome, expensive way to find out.
Yeah.
A supportive system or have it create a tour for you. So we didn't realize, okay, this is going to be crazy expensive. Actually, very different. You still need to build all the functions. You still need to tell the system how to build a tour. And just a way to circumvent the UI, which the questions shouldn't be UI. Anyway, so we spend a lot of time with AI and particularly LLM angles, which I still think the big lever in the space of technology is ultimately automation. It's what made us much better than we were 30, 40 years ago. Let's continue to drive it. But hard to build, I think, maybe as a DMS, but you kind of also need your own service, I think, to really leverage them. Yeah, we looked at things like communications automation, because you have all these drivers to spend, or just lose a lot of time trying to reach the people if there's something, the recipient, if there's an issue with the delivery and so on and so forth. Seeing, can we automate that? Can we integrate into existing systems? I think we didn't find anything that was when the problem was big enough to overcome this huge barrier to entry here, which are just new solutions to systems and companies that are not exactly solutions.
So how was the day of deciding to shut down? I can imagine that for months you were having some thoughts. How was the day what happened that made you think, okay, it's over? Was there a trigger?
Well, I had the idea of the DMS in late summer. We were about to launch a huge product spread, spend a year building the most badass automation high volume DMS. And then I was just like, I can't do it. We're not going to do it. I don't believe in it. This is not going to fly. So we shut it down. And then we basically back to the drawing board, looked at everything. So full ideation, validation, the spiel when you're going back to the drawing board, for lack of a better word. And did it in a couple more months. All that, we still have this gigantic Notion table, scoring all the different years, pros and cons, how it could work. Had a top 5, went through those, and validated a few more. And I had my main thing. I think that's someone should build this, but I think it wouldn't be fast enough, was basically the aggregation of parcel lockers. Right? So what we have right now, particularly the UK is interesting, Germany to some degree, is that Of course, parcel lockers out of home is kind of the big innovation, quote unquote, in parcel delivery, if you will. But the interesting piece is that there's lots of independent networks popping up. So in Germany, we have Storebox, Lightsbox, DHL, Deutsche Bahn has an open system. So lots of open systems. So if you're like a not DHL or Rams, a smaller company, and you want to use those networks, you have to build like 5, 6 different APIs. Of course, you're a delivery company with 200 layers. You might not even have a developer. How good would it be if you could just basically put an API to access all the, let's call them independent parcel locker networks that are popular? So that was it. I think it was cool. I think there's some or something there. I think when I unvalidated that and realized this is gonna take many years, so very dependent on the actual parcel locker operators to scale their businesses to be able to aggregate something. A total of 100 boxes that we can aggregate in Germany, which is I think about 1% of the ones that DHL has. I was like, okay, this is not going to fly in 3 months. So this is going to maybe over a period of 10 years time, if everything else happens, this could be like a cool business. And when that kind of collapsed, so I looked at myself and my board and realized, okay, maybe there's nothing there. Spoke to my investors and I think we could together decide this. Like it might be, we explored so many angles. We spent 3 years looking at so many ideas, and we ran out of ideas and realized instead of putting 3 more months, 6 more months into trying to find something in the space, or maybe there's nothing there at this point.
Yeah.
Because all my peers are also kind of, many of my peers were dying. Some were succeeding very fortunately, but because everyone else was doing support as well, it's like, okay, let's go. I returned to turn something around. It's a right decision.
And since then, what happened? Where are you now?
Well, back in Berlin, we're based. I shut down the company and decided to go to surf to Latin America. So I spent a couple of months there, mostly in Mexico and other places. I mean, when you shut down a company, it's not an insolvency, it's a liquidation. So there's still some to do accounting work, blah, blah, blah. So I was still kind of shutting that down and took about a month off. And I was thinking about what I'm going to do next. And I was entertaining some things that came to me. So I hadn't started looking yet. I wanted to take just a couple of months off. And then something pretty cool came inbound of other friends of mine that had gone through an insolvency. We're doing a fresh start and actually very interesting climate tech play. I needed exactly someone like me, a combination of like a founder, builder type who can take something that's a bit like in a messy state, which is where you are after insolvency, after insolvency with a company with 100 people, responding 30 million, but there's still so much assets in the company. So I decided to join them. Like a chief growth officer in a called Palmo, which is we're helping large real estate portfolios decarbonize. So it's energy, data, and all this new space. I had to leave transport and logistics with hurt. But quite happy now because I'm now in a space where we are past that phase that I couldn't pass in Palmo. Palmo died in the 0 to 1 phase. We never got to significant lost pilots and piece of that. We never found what I call it. So now we have a lot of it. There's pull in the market. It's more like this right now. It's more like a question focusing complex product, maybe too complex, too much, too many clients. Maybe should focus on a certain group. And it's nice to be kind of like have to worry about clients, and like really which train to jump on, and how to manage all of that. And this an execution, which I honestly think
How now you mentioned execution. How do you compare your job at Palmo, which let's call it you were searching for product market fit, versus your job now, which I assume that you guys have product market fit, since you're talking about execution. How do you compare that? Like, tell me.
I mean, those have very little in common, almost, right? We're still like early stage because we've gone through that insolvency. So there's still lots of uncertainty, which I love. I thrive in uncertainty. But man, I speak again. My day-to-day is just clients, ton of information, rebuilding structures, kind of change management in the company, working on a relaunch of the communication, preparing the marketing campaign, and closing deals, working with existing clients. So it's like the work comes to me. I mean, I still create some of the work myself. It's still, again, early stage enough. It's quite founder-ish. but it's very, very different from this pioneering. To me, like 0 to 1 is a bit like PhD of some sorts, with like combined with I don't know, like someone searching for gold or oil, where you go angles, you try to explore things. Most of the time, you don't find anything. It's a bit of detective work where you try to, talk to people, get the right who sense them out, what they mean, what they say, write it all down. Everyone I know that does this from YouTube has these gigantic Notion tables and boards and boards and boards of boards and so on and so forth. And you try to suss out a piece of information. You 50 dead ends, and sometimes you get amazing insight that gets you to new information. So to me, it's interesting. I learn a lot. I'm not bad at it, but I find it extremely unsatisfying. Whereas what I'm doing now is like I have a long to-do list. It's just I'm smashing items on the list. So good.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the days when I was at my previous job when my job was just I had to execute this list of things that we agreed, right? And then they just had to be done, and you knew that the company was working, so your job was just to make it better, basically to optimize stuff, to improve that KPI, right? To ensure that task got done so that KPI could improve. And while you're searching for product market fit, basically there's no right thing to do. There's a lot about guessing or thinking or researching or trying to understand why that guy didn't reply while in the call he seemed happy, right? And then to try to figure out if the pricing is right, if the cold email is right? It's just you need to figure out the first points of traction, let's say, and that's really hard and also a bit depressing, right? Especially because most of the things don't work, right? So you need to really be ready to accept rejection, that things don't work. You feel a bit like a failure, right? At times, while before you thought you were super successful. Yeah, right.
Useless. What am I doing with myself all day? I'm just thinking and coming up with ideas, and I like thinking, but the amount of like thinking I did on like problems that clients might have or might not have. And the challenge, of course, is if you do what we do, which is kind of venture back, it means that just solving a problem is good enough. Probably is to big enough, important enough, urgent enough, yada yada yada, to fulfill certain criteria to build a business of a certain size on top of it at a certain time. And so, yes, it might be a problem that they have, but there's a million reasons why it still is not the thing that one should do. Very frustrating. Very frustrating.
Well, but I gotta say that I like it that when we started the call, you told me that you are in a really happy moment, right? Kind of after trying it out, taking some time off, and now starting in a company that you're passionate about. You like the day to day. It reminds me of a friend of mine also in Barcelona that went through a similar journey, and now he is also looking to get back into a early stage startup as a next to the founder to drive the growth of the operations, right? And I mean, there's more life beyond being a founder, and I can see and I'm happy to see that you're happy. So and I see it in other founder friends. So so good to see it.
Yeah, it's a bit like, what does it mean to be a founder? Is it like, do you have to be the one with the idea? Are you one of the people that was there at day one? Are you someone who joins late and has a significant impact? Maybe a lot of equity, right? So I think there's a fluidity what it means. My role right now, I'm not certainly not a founder of the company, but like in terms of like the amount of shaping we have to do again, because we have this insolvency and the restructuring, like, there's a lot of, it helps to have the founder traits, which is like chaos, mess, uncertainty, resilience, get your hands dirty. But yeah, for me, there's these two distinct things of the company: 0 to 1, figure out what it is that the world wants and build something that you can go to market. And then the 1 to N. About 1 to N is just.
I heard from a guy in Twitter that the best founders, when they are second time founders, they skip the 0 to 1. I asked him how, he didn't reply. But I wish you for your future second time founder experience that you can skip the 0 to 1 and you can just go straight to growing with the pull of the market.
Thank you very much.